Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show we're talking about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Lethal Weapon. So in this episode, we kind of dive a lot heavier into Cole's past, the past that we really don't know too much about. It's kind of interesting because it seems like prior to 2004, what was he doing exactly? Like, because obviously he got arrested in Panama, but he was doing some stuff, but it didn't look like he was working for the government. It wasn't until like 2004 he got hired to be part of the CIA. It's not like he even went out of his way to go to the CIA. The CIA, in particular, Tom Barnes, came to him. Which, interesting, that actor, I've seen him in quite a few things. Like, the interesting thing I think is, like, I know he later on popped up in later stuff of 24, but I feel like there is something else I know him kind of from, and I'm just blanking on it. But like I said, I just feel like I've definitely seen him in quite a few things. I'm just 24 is like the only thing that's coming to the top of my head, but I feel like there's something else that really sticks out when it comes to him, but I can't remember. But the whole situation is interesting because there's a whole conversation. The fact is, Cole is so good at so many things that he tries, but he gives up on a lot of stuff. And Cole kind of said, like my mom says, I'm kind of perfect at anything, everything except for life. And for him, it's Tom gave him structure, gave him discipline, the motivation to do something more than what he was, you know? And it, you know, because obviously we know Cole's circumstances, what led to him quitting the CIA. And it seems like basically this whole episode revolves around, because it's interesting. You kind of figured initially that this guy probably was CIA, like the guy that's behind all this, Joshua, just because of the way he handled the heist and everything, every turn is kind of like, Cole was like, oh, he did it like this, how I know, because I would do it. It's like, okay, so this guy's probably CIA too. Turns out he's someone that Barnes had trained just like he did Cole. And it turns into this whole circumstances of just kind of like, it's almost that thing of like, you almost feel like maybe at some point if Cole didn't have it, like, it's hard to say. Like, obviously Joshua went down his own path just like Cole did, but Cole doesn't want to handle things the same way, like, because Tom wants Cole to kill Josh because it's like, it turns out later on that he took a operations list, basically has all the operations as well as all the operators and their family. So like, which is like, why would you have something like that? I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but it's kind of like, that seems super dangerous, especially if it gets into the wrong hands. Apparently it was stolen like 2 months ago, which is interesting. So, because it seems like it was someone else had stolen it. And then, well, never mind. Well, I guess because we end up finding out that this is all connected to Cole's past. Like, one of the people he killed for the CIA was this guy that had connections to the cartel. His wife, Sophia, was there at the time. She saw Cole do it, and she's been looking for him ever since. So she's the one that probably hired someone to steal the list. It was put in that box, and when Joshua ended up stealing all those different boxes, he ended up finding this particular list because he's kind of a middleman for someone else. Granted, he didn't know at the time what he was stealing, but you know, the guy he was working for was just a middleman. So it's for him, it's kind of like, okay, I need to get paid more for me. What I'm giving to you is so valuable. So to kind of like circle it all back around, because I'm kind of getting confused on that. So I do apologize. But cause we never found out who it was exactly that stole it, but I guess that's kind of not important. Just know that it was stolen. But anyway, but the fact is, Cole, and it's so interesting because this episode plays into a lot of aspects about his character. Like, obviously, you know, like his reluctancy to use his gun. Turns out it's because he doesn't like it because he had to use his gun so much when he worked for the CIA. And as we can tell, I forgot if they expressly said how long it's been between him quitting the CIA and him being, well, no, because it definitely wasn't that long between him quitting the CIA and him being like, you know, a cop in the first episode of the season. So it's like, he was with the CIA for a good couple years. He was with them for 14-ish years, basically, which is a very long time. Because obviously Cole has that thing of like, the reason why he likes his job as a cop, because he gets to do things differently than he did in the CIA. It's like, I don't just have to kill people. I can actually ask questions. I can find a way to end this without things getting bloody, which, you know, with the CIA, it's kind of you shoot first, ask questions later type of mentality. And he didn't like that, you know? I mean, that's kind of why things kind of came back. I mean, you know, it's kind of like you're giving your orders, because I think that speaks volume in itself, because it's like, Barnes could have done it himself, the cartel dude. It's like, no, but instead he sent Cole to do it, even though you're there in the restaurant. I think that kind of showed that more so like Cole wasn't really just, he was meant to be a weapon in the sense of just kind of like, you're a weapon, we point, you fire type of situation. That's how I kind of interpret all of that. And it's kind of sad because every chance he got, Cole wanted to try and do things a different way, even though Barnes was like, hey, you have to do this because obviously this list, yeah, your family's in danger, but obviously there's national security angles to this, so it's so much worse. And so for Cole, he was initially going to handle this on his own. And I love that whole aspect of him aiming the gun and shooting out the tires of the car that Bailey and Roger were following him in. I also love them like getting the car from that married couple and the married couple being like, oh, can we come along? And you have this moment of Roger kind of turning towards Bailey and she's kind of shaking her head no. And he's like, oh, you'll find somewhere better for your honeymoon. But it almost seemed like Roger almost for a second was like, do we bring them? It's like, no. But it's kind of like, it's also interesting that the married couple was like, hey, maybe we should go with you. It'll be entertaining and stuff like that. And then being an older couple probably looking for adventure and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that would have been interesting. I was like, are they about to come along? It's like, I thought Roger was going to be like, okay, I guess we have no choice. But it's like, no, that was just kind of interesting to me. But when the time came for it, like Cole was able to kind of convince Joshua to stand down just because Barnes was going to shoot him, but Cole got in the way. It's like, I'm trying to do the right thing. So, in the long run, I guess seeing how Cole handled that, like, because what I was thinking earlier was like, I was like, maybe if Cole stayed with the CIA, he could have turned into Joshua. I mean, Joshua is literally a like gun for hire. Which, to be fair, I'm sure on many occasions, Cole looks back on his time in the CIA like it's something he does not look back on with fondness. It gives him nightmares, and it's kind of the main reason why his family kind of fell apart, the whole situation between him and Natalie and Maya, because you have to cut all ties with people, no friends, no family, no connections, just because it's like you're meant to, be 100% dedicated to this whole situation. It's just kind of interesting because it even seems like even Tom's trying to be like, oh, you don't know what you're dealing with. And Murtaugh was like, oh, yeah, you're talking about like the guy that you trained to do horrible things. He's like, no, I'm talking about your partner, Cole. And it's kind of like you're throwing Cole under the bus. I guess it's because it was him trying to set the point of like, you think you know Cole so well. I know him. I've known him so much longer than you. I know what he's capable of, who he really is. And that's that kind of mindset I think he was trying to get across. That you don't know as much as you think you are. You're kind of a small fish in a big pond, essentially, type of thing. That's how I kind of interpret it. But I also love that Scorsese kept thinking this whole thing is a spy thing, even though Bailey kept telling him it's not. Even seeing like Cole stitch himself up in the morgue, he's like, oh, that's so like badass spy of you. And he's like, you think of me kind of like a badass spy? He's like, well, yeah, kind of in my mind you are. It's like, yeah, do you think the guy who did all this stuff because we couldn't find any fingerprints that he burned them off and everything? And Cole's like, yeah, there's also the chance that he just wore gloves. And he's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a possibility. Kind of you tell like dashed Scorsese's hoax. He is an author too. Let's not forget about that. He writes, well, is it books or screenplays? So not necessarily an author, but he's definitely a writer. So obviously we learned that about him last season. So maybe spy fictions are kind of up his alley in that special regard as well. But nevertheless, when it all came down to it, what was really interesting is, and I guess that shows you Barnes' mindset, is he was going to give Sophia Cole in exchange for that list. It's like, you leave now, I'll eventually make sure that Cole gets to you, so just give us the list. So because it's that mentality of like, it doesn't matter who you have to sacrifice as long as it's for the greater good. It kind of outweighs that one person's life. It's that whole like numbers game type of situation. And it's just kind of like, yeah, this is someone that you trained, took under your wing, was so important to you. It's kind of like you could have found a different solution to that. Like, I guess because it's like, yeah, because I guess if you need her out there, because I guess like maybe she's kind of a piece to an even bigger puzzle. Like you get her, you get even other higher people, because it's like you could have just helped out in the fight to make sure that Cole and Joshua got out of there, that whole situation, but he didn't. So I just think that speaks volumes. The fact is that he chose that route to sell Cole out. Maybe because for him it's like, you abandoned, you quit. So it's kind of like whatever happens is brought on you, even though you're the one that literally gave him the orders to do what he did, So it's like, it's almost like you're not taking responsibility for your part to play. And it's like, I guess it's that whole like higher management type of situation of like, yeah, whatever happened, your actions are your own actions. No matter if you were given orders, you know what you were signed up for, essentially, it's kind of the whole point. So And sadly, in the end, Cole ended up having to kill Joshua just to make sure that to stop him from rushing and running over Roger. But I mean, it's like, you could tell it devastated Cole because he's just like, I hope that things would be different, which Roger's like, yeah, but you didn't do that for Barnes. You did that to protect and save me. And the fact of the matter is, the fact is that you're even talking like this about, like, the fact is you don't want to go back to being that person, that you want to try things to be different. It's already proof that you're taking steps forward, that whole situation, you know? So I thought that was kind of neat, you know, Roger kind of bringing Cole up after he was kind of, you know, this episode kind of beat him down in that regard. It just, you know, it isn't a life that, you know, even Barnes said it himself, it's a life that you can't just leave behind. It's always going to be there with you on some level. So I was actually surprised I was kind of surprised, but kind of not. I knew that Sophia was like still out there because Cole never got to see her. So he didn't know she was the one behind this. So the fact of the matter is I knew she'd come after Cole, but I figured it might be like a next episode thing. Like, at the very least, she's out there coming for Cole, but I wasn't expecting her to grab him at the end of the episode like she did. So there's that. Kind of to end things off on kind of a lighter note, it's the other side of the episode where we had Roger tripping because it's like, oh, lo and behold, look, there's this criminal that's just sitting up in my place eating my food. I know Trish is trying to make her private practice, but it's like now she's using her home as kind of an office and stuff like that, which it is, but still. And Roger getting Bailey looking into it, which Bailey needs a new partner. Because she's like, yeah, all this work is too much for me to kind of handle on my own. So I love what that story ended up being because it's like, oh yeah, Bailey walks in with the shades. I'm like, what happened to her? It's like, oh, she got punched in the face by the lady she was following. It's like, oh, I was trying to arrest her. She was trying to, you know, buy drugs and stuff. And then lo and behold, what does it turn out to be? It's like, oh, it's Louisa, a cop. It's like, oh, that, because Roger was like, oh, I know her. She must be someone I know from behind bars in the sense of like a criminal. And it's like, no, he knew her because she was at the academy or whatever. It's like, or like, he was like, I was giving a speech and you were out there in front knocked out. And so it turns into a situation of Roger being like, yep, I was wrong in this situation. It's like, oh, like, you know, the whole reason why Louisa is there in the first place. I just didn't expect it to end with Roger being like, oh yeah, this is your new partner. Wait, what? I have to be partnered up with the person who punched me in the face. Really? And just that whole complicated thing. I was like, I love that. And just them kind of arguing back and forth, like, they just really aren't into each other. And then Scorsese sees a gun from Louisa and is like, Bailey, watch out, gun. She grabs Scorsese and flips him over. And he's just kind of like, oh, my lungs in my mouth now. And after seeing that, Bailey's like, all right, I'll give her a try. So it's going to be interesting. You know, it's kind of interesting too. Like, Bailey's the only actor who's had character who's had multiple partners all across seasons. But I'm very interested to see what that partnership ends up being like, because it seems like they definitely butt heads. Because it seems like there's going to be a lot of like issues between them. It's probably reflective of kind of like a kind of like almost stubbornness to it an extent. I don't know. It seems like it might be kind of reflective, a little bit of kind of like a Riggs and Murtaugh type of relationship potentially. I don't know. This is the beginning, so we don't 100% know. It's going to be interesting to see how they click going forward and how this dynamic goes along with the whole Cole and Murtaugh dynamic as well. So. But I am very interested to see how this whole situation goes about. Because obviously, like, I get Joshua had the list on him, so I'm sure Barnes was able to get that bag. But it's like, does he not? I'm wondering, is he going to feel any guilt over selling Cole out to Sophia? Will he tell anyone about that? Because they're taking his vehicle, but the fact is Cole probably won't pop up and they're like, okay, so where's Cole? Probably going to be trying to look for him and that whole thing. But the one part I'm wondering is at what any point will Tom actually say something or not? Will we see him kind of pop up next episode or not? Because there was a part of my brain going like, are we going to do like a corruption thing where it's like he's the one that's actually behind all of this? Turns out he's not, so. Still kind of has his douchey moves in the episode, but he wasn't completely the bad guy. I mean, he kind of is, but I'm very interested to see what happens with this because obviously this is just one of many things. Like Cole did a lot. Like I said, he was literally working for the CIA for 14 years. So he's made a lot of enemies himself. And now, you know, because I'm curious to see what this means going forward for Cole too, because it's like all that he did, like obviously his daughter knows a little bit more about all that he's done, and obviously Natalie knows a little bit too, but now they're potentially in danger because anyone that he's ever made enemies with, this situation is going to make Cole realize like his family could be in danger, so he might kind of push them away and just kind of like, I made a mistake trying to be back in their lives, you know, even though he's taken strides forward with Maya, like he might take steps back just to ensure that her and Natalie stay safe. So we'll see in the end what the next episode has in store for us with this whole situation. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.